Members, good morning. Is already the appointed time of formal quorum. May I call the meeting to order? We have two sessions today. After the first session, we will have a break of 5 minutes, and the second session will start at 10:50, and we will end at 12:50. Where necessary, I will extend the meeting by another 15 minutes. May I remind members that you have a direct or indirect pecuniary interest in any of the items involved today. Please declare the nature of interest before you speak in accordance with ROP 83A, and may I draw members' attention to ROP 84 in relation to voting arrangements on items where you have a direct pecuniary interest. Item FCR 2017-1810. This paper seeks to ask members to approve the recommendations are made by the PWSC on the 5th of April 2017, and that is to increase the approved project estimate of 63 TL Shatin to Central Link construction of rail works, advanced works, from $847.7 million to $6254.9 million to $7102.6 million in money of the day prices. Members asked that this item be voted separately. PWSC deliberated on this item on the 16th and 22nd of March and the 5th of April, and 4 hours and 70 minutes were spent on that. 4 information papers were already issued, and may I remind members that your questions must be directly related to the item, and please do not repeat yourself or comments made by other members. And for wider policy issues, please raise them at the relevant panel. May I declare interest? I am a non-executive director of Bank of East Asia, and we have government officials in attendance to answer members' questions. As I said at yesterday's meeting, I will allow another round of questions or comments. Mr. Leung Yu-chong. What has Bank of East Asia got to do with this item? Not related to play safe. I just declare. I do so on all items. Mr. Leung Yu-chong. Supplementary funding is sought because of the findings at site investigation. Were told by officials that the investigation was done according to guidelines. I'd like to know how long have the guidelines been in use, because this is not the first time you conduct a site investigation. Have you ever considered amending the guidelines, and has it ever occurred to you that perhaps the guidelines are already dated? Regarding the geo-guide, we've consulted the Development Bureau and the CNED. From time to time, they will review their geo-guide, and the latest update was in 2014. Thank you. Chairman, my question is whether they've considered the geo-guide may not be applicable for this project. Perhaps some of you told us that some of you could have done better, but because of further investigation, you might have to delay the project. Now, if you had continued to investigate the site, perhaps the extra cost would not be as high as it is now. As a matter of judgment, may I refer to the MTRCL representative? Thank you. In fact, it depends on the actual circumstances. Of course, the geo-guide was made some time ago, but then it has been updated from time to time on a need basis. the site investigation situation was very different from what it was now. Now for MTR tunnels, they were built in not so densely built areas, but now we are talking about densely built areas and many facilities already in use. So it's a bit difficult to follow the geo guide. As the director said, the CNED has been updating the geo guide from time to time, not just to increase the density of holes to be bored. Mr. James Toh. If the geo guide has to be updated, well, you talked about the site being very densely built. Now, if not enough drill holes were done and there were unforeseeable conditions, given that the project cost has increased by so much, perhaps a geo guide should be revised. All right, there is for this case, it is already fait accompli, but we have already other projects, and of course, their project costs are even higher. So, shouldn't we review the geo guide now? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Toh, for your question. The geo guide contains general recommendations. The actual extent of investigation needed by a project will be determined by the professionals concerned. When it comes to the design of the project, they have to exercise their professional judgment. And of course, if the geo guide recommends more, well, all right, I have no choice but to come to a conclusion. Given that the contrast is so big this time, is it purely an error of judgment, or was there negligence? Director. Apart from judgment, it's also related to the ground situation as explained by MTRCL. There were places they could not go and drill holes, make drill holes because of the existence of other buildings or for other reasons. But of course, your suggestion will be referred to the Development Bureau for its consideration. To sum up, Chairman, I think there are some important documents not yet available. And we have so many, we have a thick document, and we've yet to ask questions. And if you, Chairman, decide to vote on this item now, I think you have just skeleton our discussion. Mr. Shugafai, I have a subsidiary company which might have business dealings with MTRCL, though I'm not directly involved. It's just for declaration of interest. Are there members who have not asked any question on this yet? 3 minutes. You already used your 3 minutes. Mr. Chen Chi-chun. The FC has received motions from Mr. Chen Chi-chun. We have 13 motions under 37A. If you have them, please put them to us. And I'll put this item to the vote. We are going to deal with motions raised by Mr. Ray Chen in accordance with ROP 37A. In accordance with ROP 37A, I move that given the delay and project overrun of the Shatin to Central Link Advance Works is the responsibility of the MTRCL and is asking the government to foot the bill. This committee urges that the administration deal with this item under civil claims before it seeks funding from us to fund the project over cost.
我提一提大家呢，而家
May I remind members that we are voting on the following matter. Do we agree to deal with Mr. Ray Chan's motion?
現在開始表決。
Voting starts. Voting is closed. Display the results. 11 for, 23 against, 0 abstention. I declare the motion defeated. May I move that the bell be rung for 4 minutes should further division be claimed for this item. Mr. Tommy Zhang, according to our RP, either you shorten it to 1 minute or you cannot shorten it to 4 minutes. Mr. Gary Chang, in accordance with ROP, may I move that we shorten the division time from 5 to 1 minute. Mr. Gary Chang moves that should further divisions be claimed for motions related to this item, we shall proceed to vote after the division bell has been rung for 1 minute. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, 3 minutes each. Yes, please, Mr. Leung. Many members have yet to arrive, and I think we should wait for more members to come back to take part in the voting. So I think we should always be cautious. In fact, we shouldn't have any meeting on a Saturday morning. I visited many parliaments, rarely have I seen Saturday morning meetings. Usually, they just work in their office. This is not a very human, because we at 7 p.m. yesterday in the lift, we all grumbled. We're tired. This morning is too rushed. I always find it inappropriate. And we're going to advance the item for East Kowloon. Given that it is a very important matter, I want more members to be able to take part in that discussion. We should wait for more to come back. Now, if there are 13 times 5 is 65 minutes. Even those who are very lazy or caught in a traffic jam will be able to come back for the next item. I have thought long and hard, and now if I ask for a German, it will be a German. If we ask for withdrawal of the paper, then I think we should amend our ROP, because it's meaningless if it's 5 or 1 minute. We can have a scale from 5, 4, 3 to 1 minute. So it shouldn't be from 5 to 1. 5-1 is the Labor Day. So we have to change this very bad rule handed down from the colonial days. It's been 20 years since the handover. Chairman, who invented this from 5 minutes to 1 minute? Dr. Fernando Zhang wanted to shorten it to 4 minutes. I think that is appropriate. We can use a second as the unit instead, like 180 seconds, 120 seconds, so that we have a finer scale. So when government accounts are not in order, and when we make a declaration of election expenses, a difference of $5 will not be allowed. And Mr. Yu was asked whether he had invoices. Oh, Chairman, you don't have to take part in elections. Dr. Fernando Zhang, by cutting 1 minute, we've already shortened, or we will be able to save time, and yet the pro-establishment camp are so eager that they want to cut it down to 1 minute. So they've all agreed that or else it won't be as early as 8:45 a.m. So they have ensured that everyone is here. We're talking about $80 billion, and it's $4.7 billion per kilometer. It's even more expensive than the XRL. how come such a simple the railway can be so expensive? It's even more expensive than the XRL. Why the rush? We have the budgets have overrun for over $10 billion, and what will be the ultimate cost? The administration is not willing to tell us, so they have split up the items and come to us for extra funding one by one.
Now, the MTRCL works regularly suffering from cost overruns, and it's just a small amount of time, and yet we don't let the public get a close look, and the pro-establishment camp are in a rush to vote. The public funds are wasted in hundreds of millions of dollars. This is probably a white elephant project. We're not sure, but somebody made a mistake and is not held accountable. Every time there's a cost overrun, they come for more funds. They say the ground is hard and it rains, and the government says there's no other way, and every time there's voting, we just try to rush through it. So what's the electrical for? It's just for money to be made. And when the railway is built, the prices keep being raised. Now, is the MTRCL losing money? Every year it makes a profit of over $10 billion. And apart from letting people make money, what else does the administration know? So we can't turn the division to 1 minute in duration. We are against that. We want to be accountable to the public. James Toh. Now, usually for the division to be changed to 1 minute in duration, there are two circumstances. For instance, one day there may be more than one meeting, say 2 meetings. Then you have engaged in discussion in the first meeting for a period of time, and then when it comes to 37A, it's near the closing time, and that is a more mature stage. More people have come back to discuss the issues they participated previously in the earlier segment. So in the last part, the 5 minutes are reduced to 1 minute, so people are in the same building. The assumption is that everyone is here. Now, however, today there's a meeting at 8:45 a.m. Only a few people spoke. Now, it's not that it cannot be done, but it differs from the usual practice where there has been a lot of discussion, everyone has come back, is seated, there have been many rounds of speech, then people vote, and you turn it to 1 minute. Now, in some situations that may be suitable. Also, I'm against this change from 5 minutes to 1 minute because I'm protesting. Because you look at this document before us. We had a meeting yesterday, and that was when this document was put on the table, and we were asking about the details, and the government was considering that provided there is no infringement of commercial confidentiality, it was going to do certain things. Now, I don't agree that this confidentiality issue prevents the government from being accountable, because whenever there is a possibility of cost overrun, one has to be accountable. So in the contract, it should be made clear to the contractor that certain things have to be disclosed. Now, whether it's in EXCO or other committees or to us, there should be disclosure. Next, Yu Chung-yin, 3 minutes. Now, first, if you look at the FC procedures, now in FCR 6 in those documents, now why is the time changed now? It's a matter of distance, but they haven't considered that 37A motions need time to be comprehended. Now, many issues have not been answered by the administration. That's why members raised 37A. Now, if you further reduce from 5 minutes, then you don't even have time to read the 37A motions, and there's not enough time to understand the contents. Now, when you rush in every case, the results are bad. The government perhaps is in too big a rush. Now, for Annexes 1 and 2, they just amended the headings of the table. The contents are the same, so the administration had to explain yesterday that's not what they meant. So when you're in a rush, there are all these mistakes. Now, I don't know what's the real intent or the real reason. Was it some oversight or what? But clearly it was a mistake. Why is it that the same column, in the same column the figures are the same, but the heading is different? Now, is it that so there? One is approved figure and the other is a further revision. Now, so if members get the time to understand the 37A motion, and then they get time to ask the questions, then they won't make any mistakes when they vote. Now, you don't leave us time to ask questions or for the officials to answer. Now, it's over $100 billion. How the money was spent? You don't let people ask about it. Kwok Michael. Good morning, Chairman. Concerning the change from 5 minutes to 1 minute, this is nothing new in the legislature. Members have all experienced that. Now, previously, before the change, there was an item to be voted upon. People were already seated there, and the opposition says that this is all very novel. Now, we all want to increase the efficiency of our meetings. Mr. Yu Chung-yin said that there wasn't enough time to ask questions. Now, actually, we've had about 10 hours of questioning or discussion concerning Sha-Tin Central Line in 5 segments. So if you are motivated, you would have asked your questions. Now, Dr. Fernando Cheung is in New Territories East, but he overlooks the interests of the residents of NT East. So the residents of NT East will remember what Dr. Fernando Cheung is doing. And Mr. Yu Chung-yin said that he's afraid people might vote by mistake. Well, actually, we've had ample discussion. If you vote and make a mistake, it's the member's problem. So let's change from 5 minutes to 1 minute and resolve the matter, because there are other items of the agenda. We know why we have to come early on Saturday morning. The projects are lining up in a long queue, so don't say that you don't know. Now, actually, I was going to ask, do we need to have meetings during the summer recess? Otherwise, we can't deal with the items. So please don't repeat in the questions you ask. Now, you try to spend more time by proposing a change from 5 minutes to 4 minutes. The opposition is trying to drag their feet, and the punctuality of meetings is important. Now, we are seated here at 8:45. The opposition camp is derelict in their duty if they are not here. NTEs, Fernando Cheung, Leung Kwok Hong, Yang Ok Kiu, Lam Chak Ting, Kowloon West, Lau Siu Lai, Helena Wong, Claudia Mo, and Ray Chan. Thank you for reminding me. You should remember their names. NTEs, Kowloon West, the constituents. They want the shouting to Central Line to be completed early, so that they can cross the harbor more quickly. Every month of delay, there is a $4 million penalty of interest, not including other project overruns, cost overruns. And you complain when there are overruns. Now, you cannot explain what factors of human errors or negligence were involved. It's a question of the geology and of heritage issues. Now, we want the railway to be completed early so that the residents can cross the harbor quickly, and so that the workers have work to do. I am against the opposition filibustering, using all kinds of tactics. We have to let the public know who is it that is delaying the completion of the Sha-Tin Central Line. They have to be held accountable. Shiu Ka-chun. Thank you, Chairman. 3 minutes. Now, the by-elections have begun. Now, people have to be made accountable through this voting procedure. Now, I'm against shortening the time, because apart from cost overruns, now we have to look at how this vetting procedure is conducted, this approval procedure. Now, many issues are not yet resolved. I don't believe the pro-establishment camp are really satisfied with the answers. I don't think they agree that the answers are well put. I often hear them that somebody say on their side that they are voting with tears in their eyes. So is it too forced? That is, things are being pushed through by the increase in numbers. This is bullying. So people are voting in protest. So I think the change to 1 minute is not acceptable. I remind members to keep quiet when another member is speaking. Please don't attack each other. Now, we don't want to waste more time trying to resolve unnecessary conflicts. There are still items on the agenda. Now, people are saying in the radios and that the electrical is not doing its job. So let's do our work. Hu Chi-fung. Now, Mr. Luk Chung Hong counted members by name, and he asked the public to remember them. Now, it's laughable. They are all seated here. Now, they have over a million votes between them, and Mr. Luk Chung Hong has no vote behind him. Oh, the chairman says he doesn't want us to attack each other. Okay. Now, I've only asked 3 minutes of questions. The chairman deprived me roughly of my time. Now, SCL, Shelton Central Link, affects many members of my constituency too. I need to use these few minutes to express my views. I'm not guilty of anything. Now this cost overrun, I will express my view on it. I am asking. Now, if it's unavoidable as in normal circumstances, and there is still a cost overrun, well, in that case, we should review this mechanism. We are getting some clues through our questions. The MTRCL and the administration say that they will consider adopting alternative procedures. Maybe they will bore some more holes. That means this time the mistake could have been avoided. Now, if you say you want to adopt some tactics to prevent cost overruns, then of course the electrical would let you adopt those tactics. Now, the public should be keenly aware of this, that the electrical has become an automatic teller machine. Now, the public should remember these members who were not popularly elected and who merely support the government blindfolded. So you are not accountable to the public, and so are the members elected by functional constituencies. Ray Chan, 3 minutes. Just now, Mr. Luk Chung Hong counted us by name, referring to NTE's members. I have to respond. Now, the FTU by-elections campaign for NTEs has already begun. But you won't get any more votes. Wong Kok Heng lost. Now, and so did Tan Ka Piu. Now, I want to make clear. Now, in my next 37A motion, I want to discuss the insufficient investigation, the failure to bore enough holes, the responsibility, therefore, Now I want to focus on the excavation in respect of the shaft ventilation of the ventilation building. Now, in yesterday's debate, I pointed out that in the last meeting, MTRCL representatives promised to show me the diagram or picture of the part of the works. Now, but up to now they haven't supplied that picture because they know they are sure to get the votes. Now, many questions were not answered yesterday. Yu Chung Yin asked them to supply the vouchers. They couldn't. Now, I give you 5 more minutes for each motion so that you can give me the pictures. Many questions were asked. How much has been answered? Some were difficult, but for others, the promises were made to supply materials, but they were not.
So I'd like to pass Section 37A so that we can discuss who should be held responsible for boring fuel holes. But then apparently you are saying that nobody should be held responsible. I've given them opportunities to submit papers and also to answer questions, and yet they have not done so. And the next item would be the Kai-Tak Sports Park. So the whole scrutiny process would be dysfunctional. It's not working at all, and yet you're still allowing them or letting them off. Alright, last week we made those requests and still they haven't done so. They haven't done what they have pledged to do. So you should have chaired the meeting properly, Chairman. You should have asked them to do their job. So I'll be prepared to give you 10 minutes or 5 minutes so that you can ask people to come up with the papers. So if you're not doing your job, it's okay. You should have worked hard to show people that you've done your best already. So have you done your best to convince or to convince this council that you're doing your job already? Mr. Liu Chong, well, in the past, when we were forced to shorten the 5 minutes to 1 minute, that's because we were scrutinizing the amendments at the council meeting, and basically we've already discussed those, and we were given a chance to consider those amendments. That's why everybody would be here, and it doesn't really matter if the time was shortened from 5 minutes to 1 minute. But then today, when we're discussing Section 37A, well, some of the motions were just tabled, and some of them were either submitted yesterday or the day before yesterday. But then how many of us have really looked at those motions? How many of us have really thought them through? So I hope that the media outside can also ask those who vote against them, well, do they really know what's in them? And also, why are they objecting to this? Well, they are just blindly and mechanically rubber stamping the proposals by the administration, and they've never thought about this. They don't even know what's in it. So what they are doing is that whatever is proposed by the opposition camp, they would vote against it. So they are opposing for opposing's sake. This is the real intention, and they are saying that we're repeating our arguments. All right, yesterday, the Undersecretary, Mr. Yao, said that the paper before us yesterday was prepared by him just 2 days ago. He worked overnight on it. So why did he bother to prepare such a thick paper for us? That's because some of the questions have to be answered. That's why he had to provide the supplementary information paper to us. So before you make certain remarks, can you think about it? You're just blindly making certain remarks, and you said that all the arguments have been debated time and again. Given the thick papers, you can see that they have not done their job. They have not provided the information to us at all, and you haven't read the papers, and you yourselves do not ask questions, and you're blaming us for asking questions. You're not doing your job, and you're blaming us for causing chaos to the meeting. I think you're just substituting truth with fallacies, and you're blaming us for filibustering. You're blaming us for standing in the way of the projects. So if that's what you have to do, you're just mechanics. You're just robots. You just press the button when it's the time to press the button. You're not humans at all. You're not doing your job at all. You're just machines. You're just pressing the buttons. Yes, Mr. Lang Yu-chung, please pause. Elizabeth Quarter, Chairman of a point of order. I think Mr. Lang Yu-chung was making insulting remarks just now. He was saying that some in the pro-establishment camp were not humans. I think this is really very offensive and insulting. Chairman, I hope that you can make a ruling on that. Mr. Lang Yu-chung, please do not make those remarks any further. Okay, you may continue now. Yes, point of order. Well, that's contextual because he's saying that they are not humans, they are just mechanics and robots. Because this is not human behavior. So can you just rule that that would be out of order? Because that would affect our speeches in the future. Mr. Lang Yu-chung, I said that they did not think at all, and they just pressed the button, and they are not humans. So if they think that they are like that, then it's their problem. It's not mine. So I was just saying that, well, for the pro-establishment members, they do not think at all, and they just press the button. I don't know whether or not you are the same. All right, let me clarify our rules. In fact, you do not have to withdraw the remarks so long as he does not make those remarks anymore. It's okay. So you can just read the rules and procedures, and if he continues to make those remarks, I can always ask him to leave. So please understand the situation. Well, you can also say that you're not a member of the pro-establishment camp. Okay, I'll be speaking to you on the basis of the rules and procedures. This is not the right forum for us to debate about this. Chen Chong-tai, 3 minutes. Well, what happened just now? Can confirm once again that I'm against shortening the 5-minute rule to 1 minute because we are not awakened yet. Obviously, Mr. Lang Yu-chung, in making those remarks, it's a conditional statement. In other words, it's a statement on condition of the context here. So for those who speak against that, you haven't really awakened. So I'm serious, okay? I'm serious. Because you're not awakened, it's not just confined to this morning. Yes, I just slept for about 2 hours last night. So I think some colleagues have really not awakened, because yesterday at the meeting there were also examples of members not really awakened. Well, because Mr. Lang Kwok-hong, in making his remarks, he said that the Bureau or the administration should not be making reference to country A in their experience in building their railway. We should make reference to our motherland, our home country, because our home country has been building a lot of railway. And for those who did not laugh, I think they were not awakened. And I could also see that officials were copying down or jotting notes of what he said. And I think they're also not awakened. I think this is the ecology of this council. All right, whatever has been spoken, if you just adopt that approach or attitude in treating those statements, we are not really doing justice to our voters, and you may also make the wrong judgments, because for some of the motions under Section 37A, some of them are very lengthy motions. On top of that, some members just tabled the motions this morning. And given the fact that we are still not awakened, we are still not really quite aware of what is happening, the implications could be far-reaching. I cited an example. I'm not targeting a particular member. You can also check the tape to find out if those were the remarks made by him. Okay, within this council, some members said that if those were the remarks, and if you did not object to that, then it shows that you are still not awakened, you are still asleep. All right, we started the meeting at 8:45, and we tried to rush through everything, and we did not discuss anything at all this morning. I'm talking about this morning. All right, over the past 2 weeks, we discussed or debated many things, but then can you really remember what happened 2 weeks ago? And there were many requests made by members. We asked for papers, and still they are not able to submit some of the papers that we requested. So that's another evidence to show that they are still not awakened. So given the fact that many of us still have not awakened, we should not be rushing through these decisions. Mr. Kwong Chun-yu, I think some members name names just now, and we still haven't really reacted or fought back. And some members are asking that we should rush through these motions. All right, we are talking about some $800 million, and when we discuss that, actually we're talking about a cost overrun of some $10 billion. We are a lawmaking body. We are not the financial institutions. We are not a lending institution, and they haven't even promised us as to how they are going to make improvements or make amends to the previous mistakes and problems and so on. So what is before us is over $10 billion cost overrun. So we should be very careful in approving such requests, and we haven't even got the information from the officials what is going to happen in the future, because time and again they have been making mistakes and problems. And over the past 10 years, for the $60 billion cost overrun, all right, they said that we managed to save some $30 billion because we tried to cut corners. Well, $60 billion, if you had acted cautiously, if we had been very careful, if we had been able to learn from past lessons, then should these be asked? Should we spend more time to look into the details, or else next time they'll do it again? And then next time we'll say that, all right, last time you made the same mistakes. And then they'd say that this is another story, this is a different case. All right, this will happen again. It's bound to happen again, because over the past 10 years, we're talking about a cost overrun of some $60 billion. These are monies wasted. That's the reason why we have to ask questions. We're trying to find out why and how you're going to make up the shortfall. And Mr. Yao Sheng worked overnight to come up with the papers, but then he didn't say how they're going to resolve these problems. So we would be faced with the same situation time and again. But then we do have the responsibility to let the public know what has happened. So it's not about pointing fingers at certain faces and asking the public to recognize these faces. Of course, my voters would like me to be here, and then I should find out why there was this cost overrun of $10 billion. We're talking about $10,000, $20,000. We're talking about $10 billion. If we were to spend this on the grassroots, then we would have resolved many problems. The reason why the Welfare Services Panel has not been able to resolve the problem, that's because of a lack of money. So we have to be very careful. We have to find out what has happened. We have to make them promise. So have they made any promises at all? They just said that they would go back and talk about it. They would go back and review the situation. Would you be prepared to accept that? We have to be accountable to the public. This is not the ATM. We are not a lending institution. Full stop. Yes. Well, just now, Mr. Andrew Wen. All right, just now some pro-establishment members asked the public to remember our faces and names. In fact, during the past 6 months, when it comes to this Finance Committee, when they saw that certain issues or motions were passed, they would know that the administration simply would not allow us to ask questions. And what's more important is that some of the questions have not been answered. Well, how can they have answered all the questions? Because some of the questions were only asked yesterday or the day before yesterday. But then have they answered the questions at all? Mr. Yao Sheng said that he rushed out the paper just a couple of days ago. Even if you try to come to their defense, you should have come up with some tenable arguments and so on. All right, Mr. Raymond Chan talked about the boring of holes and so on. And before they, and on the papers they submitted to this council, and also the MTRCL signed the contract with the contractors, and there was this fair adjustment mechanism, and for the contractor that they signed with them is a fixed contract. So these are major issues, and these are very experienced pro-establishment members, and you've been trapped. So you should have been very angry, and yet you're asking us to pass these motions. Well, Chairman, I should commend you. Other than this moment, I think, earlier on in the process of us asking questions, in fact, on several occasions, you managed to come to our side. You managed to ask follow-up questions. You also said that they did not answer the questions, and you even asked them to come back with papers. So, Chairman, even you thought that they were not doing the right thing. So this is not a lending institution. So they are just here for money, and there is no need for scrutiny, and approval would be given immediately. So I think we have to be reasonable. All right, you should admit that you're just defending them. So you should not be putting words into our mouth. Yes, you're trying to come up with some arguments. You should commend them because Wu Chi-wai and Edward Yu, they managed to identify some major problems. And so what's been reported in the press? All right, what did the FTU members do? So you should have come up with some arguments. If you were able to argue with me that way, then I would have said that this has been a very constructive discussion. All right, I think we also need to air some grievances because the administration has to come up with such papers in such a hasty manner. It shows that they also know that they haven't done their job. And I think that, well, in terms of bullying, it's not just about having the majority and trying to those things here. So I think you're just trying to bully the majority with a small number of people because you're actually having the minority of voters trying to bully the majority. All right, we are not bullying it because the opposition camp is the bully. Because you're blindly making things difficult. All right, for the 5-minute voting time, we are shortening it to 1 minute. That would effectively and efficiently deal with the item before us. Because shortening the 5-minute to 1 minute, you're against it. What's the problem, Mr. Lang Kwok Hong? Please check. Mr. Lang Kwok Hong, please do not just interrupt casually. We are very serious about our work. So we are not a lending institution because you're speaking this in front of the public, and if this continues, it's not going to work. At least this morning, please do not disrupt the meeting. Mr. Holden Chow, please continue. Chairman, 5-minute voting time to shorten it to 1 minute, and the opposition camp has been exhausting all the ways to make things difficult. If this is not filibustering, what is? All right, in this council, we are not efficient at all because they are exhausting every minute and second to filibuster. And in scrutinizing the motions, we are not just accountable for one project. We have to be accountable to all the items in the queue. And if there is congestion on one item, then every other items will be affected because other than the Kai-Tak Sports Park, there are other items. And should we be spending all the time to allow them to do this? And they are not even prepared to allow us to shorten the voting time from 5 minutes to 1 minute, given the fact that we still have this long queue. And what I'd like to say is, Chairman, the opposition camp is saying that all the projects are white elephant projects. In fact, the opposition camp is trying to stand in the way of all projects in Hong Kong. It's not just being accountable to one project. We have to be accountable to all the projects in the queue. We have to deal with all these items as expeditiously as possible. Of course, I understand that in a meeting we have talked about cost overrun. We are also talking about archaeological finds and also some unforeseen situations. We don't want that to happen. So we have to deal with that in the future. This is necessary. Still, we have to deal with that efficiently. We should not be debating that indefinitely and shortening the voting time from 5 minutes to 1 minute. And they are spending so much time to object to it. It has made us very inefficient, and therefore we should shorten the voting time from 5 minutes to 1 minute as soon as possible so that all the projects in the queue would not see this congestion because we don't want to delay things any further. Yes, Ms. Lau Siu Lai. Chairman, I'm against shortening the voting time from 5 minutes to 1 minute because just now we were told that, well, this council is not functioning efficiently. In fact, during the past few months, I think this committee is not functioning at all. It's not about efficiency. It's just that we are just approving the items without scrutinizing them because the fact that we can only approve them, that's why when the administration submitted papers, they did not give us the true figures, and for the price adjustment contingency fund, what is it? I tried to ask friends, and they told, well, how would the contract prepared? And if you ask the company for more money, then how would you give the accounts to the company or this management? They said that for the price, it should be fixed. But then if there are some unforeseen circumstances, if you need to build something more, and if you have to do more works, then you will have to show people what has happened. So there is no question of having to have a contingency fund for that, but then apparently the contractor would be working at the front line, and for the figures that we saw at the finance committee is another table, is another set of figures. So this is completely different. I'm not suggesting that they are falsifying the accounts or they are corrupt, whatever. So I'm not making those suggestions, but then as a committee scrutinizing those figures, if they are not the true figures, then what am I approving?
So they're just asking for money, and then the accounts would be so prepared that reflects that extra money, and then you don't really have to scrutinize my accounts. Your only responsibility here is to approve the funding. Then we're not really even a lending institution, because a lending institution will blacklist of poor debtors. I don't know whether you will move another point of order saying we're insulting ourselves. We are really just a human ATM. And you say that when we discuss finance matters, let's not talk about works. And then what's the point of being efficient? Because we're not really discussing facts. We've lost our function. I've always respected the FC, and then now I was surprised. I think that FC should be talking about works, and then now we're not talking about the real accounts. So it appears that we don't really have to think twice before we decide that voting should proceed after 1 minute, and this is very saddening to everyone in Hong Kong. All right, pro-establishment members, even if you want to defend the government, please do not be so outrageous. You should really stick to facts. Dr. Jiang Lai-wan, Mr. Ray Chen said he was very unhappy because even officials could come back and give us a paper, he would not be convinced. As we all know, Mr. Ray Chen has his own personality, and it's not easy to convince him. And Mr. Chiu Ka-chun said that we can examine, scrutinize, and approve papers slowly. Well, we have already scrutinized it for a long time. It's time to approve it. And Mr. Ray Chen said that there is no need to be anxious. Well, Yuan may not be anxious, but residents along the Sha-Tin to Central Line are very anxious. All right. If you don't want it to shorten the time from 5 to 1 minute, well, is it okay if it is kept at 5 minutes? And Mr. Hui Shifan, Miss Dr. Jiang Lai-wan, hang on, please. And Madam Jiang Lai-wan, please pause for a while and let me have the floor. I couldn't because it's too noisy. Mr. Long Guo-hong, please do not disrupt the meeting anymore. Point of order. Chairman, ask him which rule of procedure. There is no need for you to coach me how to be the chair. No, Chairman, you must ask him which rule he's referring to. Mr. Long Guo-hong. Point of order. 38 of our rule. She violated Rule 38. She didn't stop when the chairman asked him to, so she has violated ROP 38. What is your point of order? 38, please. Take a look at ROP 38. The chairman asked you to stop, and yet you continued. I don't think the public would like to see us bickering among ourselves. Now, this is serious. What is our point of order? All right. Let me solemnly and seriously raise my point of order. Dr. Jiang Lai-wan, please wait till I'm done. I think Dr. Jiang is being frivolous, repetitive, and trivial. She said that is already done. Dr. Jiang, please continue. Just now, Mr. Lang Yu-chung said that for those who oppose this, they are just opposing for the sake of opposing, and they are not thinking. So, Lang Yu-chung, when you vote on this, please do not vote against it. And Mr. Chang Chong Tai was being very honest. He said that many members did not have enough sleep. So I support that we shorten the division time to 1 minute so that they can all go to bed afterwards, after we voted on all the items. Now please do not attack one another because you will further delay the meeting. Please do understand that the public has very great concern over the deadlock of papers we have. And members, can you please do not name members here? Please do not refute, otherwise it's easy for arguments to start. Dr. Elizabeth Quat, some members claimed that they were not allowed to scrutinize the papers that were asked to approve the items. This is ridiculous. This debate is about shortening the division time from 5 to 1 minute. We've spent over 10 hours on this. Filibustering started at PWSC all the way to now, and you admit it when you're filibustering. Anyway, we have to vote on it. It's just one of the many works items waiting in the queue. This is the first year of our legislative term. We've only approved works worth $4.8 billion. Many workers out there are crying out for jobs, and the works sector are also crying out loud. So we really have to vote on this. I urge the Pen Democrats not to cheat the public. You are filibustering, you admit to it. We have to vote on this. After you've asked all those questions, we have to make a decision. It's pointless for you to continue this. So I support shortening the division time to 1 minute. Mr. Eddie Ju, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. I have no strong views about shortening the division time from 5 to 1 minute. I can vote for it. The reason why I want to speak is I want colleagues to understand the situation. If we take away the background in all our discussion and you take things out of its context, and even and you always accuse us of filibustering, then there is no way we can improve the quality of our scrutiny. A few days ago, the chairman was interviewed. I saw him on the press, and he said that to get something, the Pendams and also the pro-establishment members can come together and go for it. Now, for the Sha Tin and Central Link, this is a good opportunity for us to get undertakings from the administration to prevent future incidents, and yet we have let go of this opportunity. And then, Chairman, how can I lobby the pro-establishment camp to press the government to do something? Now, for this item, as I said yesterday, the money is not a lot, but its significance to future projects is crucial. It can ensure that the government is more accountable to the future, because there are three things: the responsibilities and accountability of the government, MTRCL, and the contractor, how that can be more transparent, and how the MTRCL can be more responsible when it reports its accounts to us, and how we can improve the mechanism of future ground investigation. Now, we've seen some progress in the boring of drill holes. And for the first two parts, we were almost successful, but at this point, we are letting it go. Why do you think that it is a waste of time? This is because the opportunity is here. We have already grasped it, and then at the very last minute, we decide to let it go. That will be really a waste of time, given that the background is so apparent. So please do not just label us, please. And as for the backlog, I think you can have this 1+1 arrangement. You can bundle in or put items that can be passed very easily, so we can clear the backlog. Dr. Wong, I'm against shortening the division bell to 1 minute. The pro-establishment camp challenged the Pen Democrats for blocking the approval of these items, as if we had nothing to do and we were here just to block your progress. Although Elizabeth Kwok said that we had met a number of times already, I think she was just repeating what the chairman said. In the past few hours, where were the pro-establishment members? Very few of you were here, as if all the work should be done by this side of the room. Scrutiny of government funding applications, that should be the job of all 70 members in this council. Ask yourselves, have you diligently read through all the papers and considered questions asked by us very carefully? Or is it that because you are in the establishment camp, you would always support the government regardless of what's in their papers? Whether it be $13.9 million, $40 billion, or $100 billion, it doesn't matter. You will for sure support these applications. Is it because you are from the pro-establishment camp? You don't need to ask any questions. Hang on, please. Dr. Jiang Lai-wen. I think what Dr. Hanela Zhang said was very gross. So what is meant by where you see it dictates what you do? I think this is a common. This is a very common. These are common remarks, Mr. Dr. Zhang. Chairman, you don't want to debate with Dr. Jiang Lai-wan what she said? For those who are very patriotic, go and look up the dictionary and see where these remarks came from. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, it's not your time. Please, now you always breached the rules. If it's not your turn, please do not speak. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, do you want to take a puff out there? We are against smoking. Where if you need to take a cigarette, you go out. No, we don't want to block your progress. But in the past, we were too eager to approve whatever the government gave us. That's not being responsible. We're exercising due diligence. We are asking questions on things we have queries. So far, whether it be from government officials or the MTRCL, when they answer questions, even the chairman got angry because they were beating around the bushes. I asked yesterday how the contract was drafted, but I have yet to hear something satisfactory. And whenever there is a problem, you blame it on the ground conditions. How did you go about the ground investigation? If the geology was bad, you come and ask for more money. What if the ground conditions are good? Can there be a refund? I do understand that ground investigation may not reflect a full situation. Mr. Jeremy Tam. I hope the pro-establishment camp will not always say that we are filibustering when we ask questions. I myself, I only asked once after I've spent my 3 minutes. I am very concerned about the situation, and the chairman gave them 5 minutes, and I was clear, so I didn't ask further questions. And would you call me filibustering? Members are being diligent when they ask questions, and please do not call us filibustering. You have to see what questions we are asking and whether indeed those questions were either not properly answered or not answered by the administration. So if the attitude is not to block the progress, we approve and we press the support button whenever there are applications. And for shortening the division bell to 1 minute, yes, there may be a point in some circumstances, but for this time you have to look at the 37A motions. Can we really understand the whole motion within 1 minute? Of course, you may say that you're bound to support or disagree anyway, but that is just your preconceived position. We may not all share the same attitude. If I want to seriously understand what the motion is about, then at least I can check on the internet whether the information sought in the motion is already available. I can also check previous government papers to see whether the motion has a point. Well, 1 minute would not even be sufficient for reading out the whole motion. So it's not about whether we are going to support or disagree. Rather, we need time to look at all the motions. Perhaps to save some trees, the motions have not been printed to us. Now, if there were already hard copies of the motions here for us to read beforehand, I will be able to understand whether they are complicated or not. Then I may support this, but now I don't even know how appropriate or inappropriate or how meaningful each 37 motion A is. I can't really make a decision. So how can I support this motion? Does any member wish to speak? If not, I'll put this item to the vote. In accordance with ROP 47, it is proposed that the division bell be rung for 1 minute instead of 5. Do you claim a division? All right, the bell will be rung for 5 minutes or 1 minute.
I
have 16 motion 37A, and I will please, if you have further motion 37A to submit, please do so. I'll draw a line very soon.
我提一提大家呢，
I remind members we will vote on whether the division bell shall ring for 1 minute instead of 5.
現在開始表決。
Please proceed to vote. Voting stops. The results are displayed. 26 for, 19 against, 0 abstention. I declare the proposal passed. Remaining 37A, division bell for 1 minute. According to FC Rule of Procedure 37, I move that since the government starting to centralize advanced works, $840 million of additional funding, over $50 million was for the excavation in respect of the shaft of the ventilation building. Because of loose rocks, excavation has to be to a deeper level. Now, according to the tender document, the excavation investigation consists of only one hole. It would appear that the MTRCL was very deficient in its excavation, so MTRCL should pay for the extra cost. I remind you that we are going to vote on whether to deal with this item. Voting stops. The results are displayed. 19 for, 26 against. I declare that it's against. According to Rule 37A of FC, I move that given that the government has indicated that the $840 million has to be paid under agreement, and so there's this additional funding request of $840 million. However, the government has not provided information for the public to decide whether this is fair. The government has to gain public support of the agreement before it applies for the additional funding. Voting starts. Voting stops. The results are displayed. 16 for, 26 against, 0 abstention. I declare that the motion is voted down. According to FCRP 37, I move that since in the application document the administration indicated that the MTRCL conducted soil investigation based on the geo-guide provided by the administration, and yet the MTRCL seriously erred in its estimation, leading to serious cost overrun. The MTRCL should undertake procedures to ensure that there wouldn't be underestimation of soil quality. Any more 37A should be submitted as quickly as possible. Voting stops. The results are displayed. $18 for, 26 against, 0 abstention. I declare that the motion is turned down. Chu Dick. Bell shall ring for 1 minute. According to FCRP 37, I move that this committee, after 6-3 TR works is completed, there should be a complete review for the public to peruse. Now, this should give a complete discussion and review of the risks, the support facilities, and there should be detailed proposals and explanations. Please proceed to vote. Voting stops. The results are displayed. 18 for, 25 against, 1 abstention. I declare that the committee will not deal with this item. Next item, bell shall ring for 1 minute. According to FCROP 37, I move that this committee ask the administration and the MTRCL in respect of cost overrun of item 63 TR. There should be supplementary information on the expenditures by the MTRCL and the subcontractors. There should be detailed cost figures and the price adjustment estimates so as to show the relationship with the individual subcontractors' agreements. Please proceed to vote. Voting stops. The results are displayed. 17 for, 25 against, 1 abstention. I declare that the committee will not deal with this motion. Dr. Fernando Cheung, 1 minute. Given that the advance works of the SCL is $800 million over the budget, there is a risk of serious cost overrun. Many MTRCL projects have shown serious cost overruns. This committee feels that there should be an upper limit to the construction cost. Any overrun should be borne by MTRCL. No more 37A motions will be accepted. Please proceed to vote. Voting stops. The results are displayed. 17 for, 26 against, 1 abstention. I declare that the committee will not deal with this motion. Dr. Yu Chung-yin, I move that the audit report should be submitted by the administration on the price adjustment factors, and it should be signed by a professional auditor. Please proceed to vote. Voting stops. Results are displayed. 18 for, 26 against, 0 abstention. I declare that the committee will not deal with this item. Mr. Lo Kun Chong is not here. We have dealt with all the motions. We now put to a vote FCR 16, 17, 10, 78, 10. The division bell shall ring for 1 minute. We have completed the 37A motions. We are going to vote on whether the funding request is to be approved. Please proceed to vote. Voting stops. The results are displayed. 25 for, 19 against. I declare that the proposal is passed. I voted wrongly. I would like to vote in support. Please amend the record. We come to the next item. Please invite the administration officials to come in.
朱凱廸議員係有咩問題？
咪體育員啊，而家
係啊，體育員啊，係啊。
有個關於體育員嘅
喂，等陣
係
請講下。
就有個關於體育員嘅安排咧，想問下主席嘅，就係因為我喺較早前就入咗7個21嘅議案啦，設定條件啦，咁就收到政府嘅回覆嘅。咁就你就俾到今晚我就可以回覆啦。咁我就其實希望因為呢一類嘅由政府俾議員嘅信呢，其實佢係同即係我哋未發生過嘅，冇呢啲嘢噶嘛。37A 政府唔會俾意見噶嘛。咁我希望呢將政府交俾我嘅關於21嗰7條21嘅嗰啲評語呢，或者嗰啲意見呢，大家都可以睇到咯。希望你可以交俾本會其他同事同埋上埋網。
你係咪講政府個回覆？
政府嗰個係啊，因為而家如果去到係你喺較後時間做咗決定，跟住本會先睇到嗰啲文本咧，其實就唔係好恰當咯。我覺得其實同事都應該知道咯。
好。我哋考慮下，因為咧大會就唔係咁做嘅，但係我哋考慮下財會嘅情況下，或者嗱，請等等先，我講咗個會議安排先啊，唔好意思嚇。咁我哋呢個項目咧係請委員會咧係通過咧係 FCR 2017-1814號文件所載嘅建議，內容咧係將272 RS 號工程計劃餘下部分咧提升為甲級，按付款當日價格計算咧，估計所需費用為318億9800萬元，用以興建啟德體育園，以支持香港體育運動嘅進一步發展。公務小組委員會咧曾經喺2017年嘅5月6號啦、10號啦、17號、20號同埋31號嘅會議上咧討論有關文件，已經討論咗11個鐘頭噶啦。政府當局亦都已經提交咗5份嘅資料文件。咁咧，我首先申報我係東亞銀行嘅獨立非執行董事。為咗解答大家嘅問題咧，財務委員會咧有以下嘅官員理席：民政事務局嘅局長劉江華先生同佢嘅團隊嘅。郭榮鏗議員。
係啊，主席啊，我想即係規程嗰度咧問一問法律顧問就住朱凱廸議員提出嗰個7項議案咧，政府寫翻嚟就話議案不合規程，咁其實我唔係好明佢嗰個意思係咩？我想請法律顧問可唔可以解釋嗰個不合規程係就住係咩不合規程？
嗱，首先咧就呢個政府話不合規程，唔表示立法會覺得係不合規程嘅。
係啊，我知啊，但係我想理解一下法律顧問嗰個睇法啫。
你意思係佢哋嘅法律顧問定我哋嘅法律顧問？
我哋個法律顧問啦。
我哋嘅法律顧問未必係咁睇嘅，因為通常我哋有另外一個意見㗎嘛。嗱，通常我哋會咁嘅，有所有法律效力嘅呢啲咁嘅修訂咧，參考大會嘅做法咧，都係一定會係俾翻政府，咁佢俾佢嘅意見啦。好啦，然後咧，我哋會交翻俾阿朱凱廸，今次阿朱凱廸睇啊。
我明一個問題啫，佢而家係講緊係不合規程係就係按邊一個法例同埋邊一個章節去話佢不合規程，我就係想理解呢一點啫。
但係我諗我哋法律顧問都唔會評論政府嗰個嘅，因為嗰個係政府自己法律顧問，我哋未必同意佢噶嘛。咁嗱，希望你明白咧，而家我咧做緊咩咧，就係話咧，等阿朱凱廸議員佢將佢意見俾咗之後，即係就政府嗰個法律顧問嘅意見俾咗意見之後咧。我哋咧就會係我再攞我哋立法會嘅法律顧問嘅意見。
We'll seek the administration's views and then we will make a final decision. We don't have to follow the administration. Now, I'd like to know which laws and which sections are they referring to. Now, we don't know. Now, this is merely the administration's views. We have to listen to members' views before we decide. Now, I'm asking which law. You have to ask the administration. Ms. Chair, any response? The government's legal opinion that is against procedures? Carol? Now, the legal opinion is that there are two parts. Now, the legal opinion is that the 7 motions are not in accordance with Section 2 of Cap 2A, so it's not in accordance with legal procedure. And the legal opinion mentions that motions 1, 2, 3 now it's about additional expenditure is to be borne by general revenue, so it's outside the scope of Capital Works Reserve Fund. Mr. Michael Chen, 4 minutes. Now, I'm a layman with regards to sports, but sports facilities are very important to athletes.
But as we have said, for the reclamation at Sunny Bay, they'd like to have a multi-purpose road track so that they can also use it for motor racing activities and so on. But then with our hands tied, then athletes would not be able to fully develop their potential. I'm sure many athletes would understand that with the sports park, for those major events that have not been held because of the shortage of such venues, they would be able to be held here. So I'm sure, Secretary, you're thinking about that. And there's a women's volleyball contest in July to be held at the Hong Kong Coliseum. Well, I'm sure many athletes would welcome that. But then the biggest irony was that, well, athletes do not even have warming up facilities available. So I'd like to clarify this. Well, what I'd like to see is that, well, I like those members who try to compare the Disneyland project with the Kai-Tak Sports Park. I can see that the voting will be very different because on Disneyland, I asked the administration to just amend one of the unequal terms, but then nobody got back to me, and they just said that we should take it or leave it. So they would treating us as if we were ATM, and then Hong Kong people would just be prepared to fund whatever they ask. And then on this occasion, I don't really have any confidence that the administration would be prepared to whatever I suggested. And the Bureau apparently wasn't really interested in anything that members suggested. But then on this occasion, they are trying to change the impression that I had about the Disneyland park, that they were kowtowing to Disneyland. I think on this occasion, we should at least breathe a sigh of relief. But then I really think that the Kai-Tak Sports Park is a good project. I hope that with regard to the bond to be paid by the contractors, that should be increased. The administration said that they should only be responsible for the 6 to 9 months basic expenditure of some $600 to $900 million. And then after spending $100 to $200 million, they would be going scot-free. So I was suggesting that we should increase that to at least $9 billion. And now under the latest proposal, the contractor will have to at least come up with some $200 million as bond money. So at least that would also add to or increase to about $1 billion and so on. And also the contract period should be shortened. Originally, they proposed the 25 plus 10 plus 10. So the administration's original proposal was 25 plus 10, and I suggested that it should be revised to 15 plus 10 plus 10. And now they're going to have an interim review. In other words, that would be very similar to my suggestion. In other words, if they were not doing a good job, then we would be able to terminate the contract early. So I think all these would be acceptable if they were prepared to do it. And finally, I was most concerned about the undertaking that they are, and also the topping up of that, because as a tenant, I would have asked the landlord to top up everything, but then the landlord would of course try to minimize his cost. And when I looked around the premises, all right, if the return is high, then of course I would not be very worried. But then what I would be most concerned would be that, all right, if I'm charging them $1 million for rent, and if they are making a loss, then they would not be prepared to pay the rent. That's why I was most concerned that if they are going to underwrite anything, then that would be problematic. Now you have said something, and you said that, okay, we would seriously consider members' suggestion, and then we would also make the suggestion to the Central Tendering Board. So I'd like to ask the Secretary this. Okay, so can you just delete the first statement? That is, you'll be making the suggestion to the Central Tendering Board, because after serious consideration, I don't know what you're going to conclude. So, Secretary, can you respond? Yes, Chairman, we can take that out, because we have looked into that. Well, it's not that whatever member suggested, we would not be looking into that. So we would be submitting this recommendation to the Central Tendering Board. As to the ratio, I would not be making the suggestion, because after all, we should be leaving that to the Central Tendering Board so that it would be able to make a fair decision. So what are you going to do then? So I'll be passing your view on to the Central Tendering Board for consideration. Next, Mr. Kwong Chun-Yi. Chairman, first, of course, we are most unhappy about the Kai-Tak Sports Park. Why is it that it's jumping the queue? Because there are so many livelihood issues. They are very urgent issues. Why do we have to put this before the queue? Why do we have to expedite this item out of all items? This is not the Finance Committee. Apparently, this is a lending institution. So, for Kai-Tak Sports Park, why does it have to jump the queue? And also on Thursday, you proposed to increase the number of meetings, and it clashed with my proposal to introduce an animal protection law. And this is the latest proposal by the administration, and also for the unsuccessful bid guarantee money. So they'll be able to get a subvention of $60 million, and a maximum of $1.8 billion will be set aside for that. And okay, whoever is not successful, he'll be able to get the money still. I think that's not fair. So that's the bid incentive for unsuccessful tenderers, and also for the operating period, it can be as long as 25 years. Well, in all public works, and also during our dealing with the administration's response is that they'll be setting up a committee. But then what is the constitution of the committee? What is the composition? All right. Well, at present, you have pro CY Leung fans filling all these posts. What is going to happen in the future? So what will the committee be doing? So it will just be advisory, and would it be able to reflect the community sentiments, or is it going to just act on its own without paying attention to the community's sentiments? This is most worrying, because we're talking about a 25-year contract period. Okay, for the parent company, they will have to come up with a bond money that can add up to $2.5 billion, and still the administration will be footing the lion's share of the bill. And then the contractor can operate the facility, and yet this council will have no role to play in terms of monitoring the operation. What if it doesn't do its job? Well, just take a look at the cruise terminal nearby. Nobody is going there at all, and still we won't be able to give our input. We won't be able to look at how they are doing. So it's like a kite that is flying without any control. Now they are trying to jump the queue. This is really most infuriating. So as the chairman suggested, they are breaking all the rules and they are taking us for granted. So if it's a livelihood issue, we would be prepared to let it go. Yet this is not. So, Secretary, what kind of what are you going to do about the bid incentive? Are you going to make sure that what we described earlier would not happen? And also, we are very concerned about the bond money. It's not about our mistrust of you. We do not trust the government because you've had precedent cases, and then after this precedent is established, you can do it later. And also, do you have any information to show how you're going to help the grassroots athletes, and what about the sports organizations? Because recently I visited some venues and they might be able to play ping pong at a very low cost. All right, many of them managed to join the Hong Kong team. But then when we asked these organizations as to how they view the Kai-Tak Sports Park, they said that in terms of popularizing sports, you didn't spend any money at all. So even with the completion of the Kai-Tak Sports Park, for the grassroots athletes, they won't be able to benefit from it at all. What kind of help will be offered to them? You haven't told us at all. And also, you still haven't been able to answer the question, why do you have to offer this contract of 25 years? And you said that there would be an interim review. That would not be adequate. So can you explain and respond to these public sentiments or queries? Secretary, well, with regard to the bid incentive for unsuccessful tenderers, it's a one-off arrangement. So we'll be elaborating on that later. But then in terms of the use of this on this item, there are some merits because we've repeatedly explained that that would increase the competitiveness of the bidding process, and even for the unsuccessful tenderers, well, it doesn't mean that their bids are totally undesirable. So if there is sufficient incentive, then the best of the bids, and even for those who do not succeed, we can also incorporate some of the good features. So that's the most important reason. What about the composition of the committee? Well, the second point made by Mr. Kwong was, of course, about the composition of the committee. In para 11 of our supplementary paper, you can see it. Well, the focus of Mr. Kwong's argument is that representatives from the community, including those from the sports sector, lawmakers, and also non-government organizations and even users can give their input at the committee. Well, in para 11, as we suggested, these stakeholders will be represented on the committee so that their views will be more would be closer to the sentiments of the community. And Mr. Kwong also talked about elite athletes. If you treat the Kai-Tak Sports Park as an elite sports facility, in fact, we are trying to run mega events there, so that you can also run such facilities. So it's also an attempt to popularize sports. Let's not forget that in Kowloon East, in Mong Tai Sin and Kwun Tong, and Kowloon City, they are short of sports venues and sports facilities. That's why the sports park has been built in response to local requests. With regard to popularizing sport, in the last policy address of this term of government, promises have been made. We have already obtained funding so that in the next 5 years, in all the 18 districts in the territory, we will be building more sports grounds, more sports facilities, swimming pools, and so on and so forth, so that in the next 5 years there'll be heated swimming pools in every district. So that is a promise that will be honored in the next 5 years. So we don't just have facilities for the elite athletes and also for mega events. In the next 5 years, we're going to build many more sports facilities. That's the request by Mr. Kwong. So other than nurturing more elite athletes, which is very much needed, we are also trying to popularize sports. Next, Alvin Young. Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I'd like to express my sentiments about the Chairman's permission for the administration to jump queue. I'd like to express my dissatisfaction because you're actually disrupting our practice, because with regard to the replacement of the communication system for fire station, these are very important to people's livelihood, and if they are put before us, actually we could have passed it very easily and quickly. So the administration's attempt to jump the queue, I think this has set a very bad precedent. So I'd like to express my dissatisfaction from the very outset. And also, I'm sure the Bureau understands that this sports park is a very controversial item, and according to the Secretary, this is an independent way of dealing with that, and he can also guarantee that they are not going to do it again in the future. Okay, Bureau Director, you're representing the Home Affairs Bureau in making those remarks. I'm not sure for other projects would you be doing the same, because how can the Secretary guarantee that this is an overarching policy from the administration, and therefore you can make this promise so that in the future, when we face with another major item, other bureaus would not be resorting to the same approach, or even if it's under the same bureau, that is the Home Affairs Bureau, you will not be resorting to the same approach. So how can you make that kind of promise? So before I ask questions, can the Bureau Director or even the FSTB Permanent Secretary, can you clarify the situation? That is, when the administration talk about the overall direction, when you make a promise, how can we trust that this is the isolated incident that will not be repeated again in the future? Secretary, well, as we said in the paper, this is a one-off handling, because this is a rather unique project with such a need, and to adopt that approach in this DBO project, that is the operator design and build project, this would serve as a very important incentive so that the bidders will be prepared to put up competitive bids. As to the promise made by this Bureau, in the foreseeable future, I do not foresee any major project like this to be implemented. And I'd like to mention in passing, Mr. Alvin Young, well, for the Home Affairs Bureau, for the nearest thing that we are going to build, that we have built, that might have been the Hong Kong Stadium that was built several decades ago. The reason why we are going to build this, I think the sports sector has been looking forward to this for a long time, and I do not see that this is going to happen in the near future. Mr. Alvin Young, okay, this is what the Bureau just said. Can the Permanent Secretary tell us more about this from the Treasury's point of view? How can we trust you that this is a one-off thing? Chairman, I can confirm that this arrangement is not a common practice, because a special consideration has been given to the uniqueness of this project, as the Bureau Director just said. I can also say that within the administration, we have thought this hard, and also at the policy level, we do not have any plan to extend this practice to other projects. This is a very unique arrangement, specifically for the Kai Tak Sports Park. So this is a decision made purely for the Kai Tak Sports Park, the bid incentive proposal. Mr. Young, well, if this is the statement made by the Permanent Secretary, we can only note it, and of course our concerns cannot be allayed by those remarks. So I'd like to clarify about the 25-year operating period. This is a very long period, and I can see that in response to members' questions, the Secretary said that there would be an interim review, and if the contractor is not doing his job, then he can terminate the contract. But then it will be a fixed contract. And if in the course of the contract he's not doing his job, whether he's overcharging or whether his management is not proper, then can that be included in the contract terms? Secretary, Chairman, we will be looking into the contract to see what details should be included, as Mr. Alvin Young just suggested. Well, before the completion of the sports park, the committee will be set up 1 year before that, so that different quarters of the community will be able to monitor the performance, and then after 10 years there will be an interim review to see whether or not the contract should continue. Next, Mr. Lau Kok Fan. Thank you, Chairman, for the Kai-Tak Sports Park at the PWC process. I've been very concerned about this, and many questions have been asked. And as Michael Tin, Yik Chi Meng, UC Wing, and so on, I also signed a joint petition asking the administration to provide further information. And of course, that's what happened at the PWSC, and both the Permanent Secretary and the Bureau Director made some concession. And out of the 6 requests made, they were prepared to make concessions on 5. And we said that before coming to the FC, they should give us more detailed replies so that I can make up my mind as to what I would be doing at today's meeting. And I'm very pleased to say that after the PWC meeting, some of us also had meetings with the Bureau Director and the Permanent Secretary, and also the administration did listen to the views of members at the meeting, and some adjustments have been made. And I think those adjustments are very important because we were very concerned about the Kai-Tak Sports Park. In fact, the sports sector supported this very much because I've heard from them. And yet, despite the support, they're concerned whether or not what is to be built would be exactly like what they have wanted. That's why we said that for the $200 million guarantee fund, that should be increased to $1 billion. And I think that's in line with our request. And also there should be interim reviews, as we suggested, and a committee would also be set up to formulate certain indicators and also criteria for the monitoring of the contractor's performance. We supported that. And also on the bid incentive, you said that that should be kept. Well, honestly, for the bid incentive, including myself and also even Eddie Chu, we both said that this is just a minor detail. Because our understanding is that, well, for this bid incentive is something very new, and as you just said, this is not a common practice, and that's why we had those concerns and anxieties. But then you said that you will not be extending this to other tenderers, and well, they might be prepared to pay the $100 million as an advance payment, but then because of the extension of the project, they might be able to cut costs by $1 billion, $2 billion, and that might be more beneficial to the community.
We'll wait and see whether this is true, but 5 out of the 6 items have been adjusted to suit our request, and I think we have to support your program. Even for the bid incentive proposal, you have made a concession, and that is instead of 3, you have chosen to subsidize 2 tenders only. So this has helped us to save $60 million. So DAB and I myself will support this paper in FC. And a member asked whether this will be the only time when bid incentive is used. Well, let's play safe. Let's see whether the bid incentive proposal can indeed increase competitiveness as claimed, and we'll see whether ultimately we can make savings in this item. I asked that some indicators be given. For instance, will the fees and charges no higher than LCSD run venues, and whether priorities can be given to some organizations. I'd like to know what will be the relationship between the sports associations and the sports park. Are they do they play a supporting role, or would they be there to monitor the performance of the sports park? And I think Hong Kong athletes deserve a home venue, because even Mr. Alex Cho said that because of cheers from local supporters, he was able to win in contests, and some other athletes have also claimed the same. So I think we should really do that. Well, may I remind you that each member can have only 5 minutes for question and answers. So you've used up that and wait for the second round. And it's time for our break. Come back after 5 minutes.